Okay, it is Wednesday, April 15th, and your assignment today, or pages 532, so it's the beginning of inheritance and traits, 532 through 539. Kind of seems like a lot from the textbook. Okay, whatever. So, don't forget that as you're reading, you're supposed to be answering anything that's like this, okay? Anything like that, the foldables, pretty sure you're supposed to be doing. So when I'm checking and putting in grades, if you didn't do them, I'm taking points off. So, it says, what is inheritance? You probably resemble your parents or grandparents. If you have brothers or sisters, they probably resemble your parents and grandparents too. You all might have some of the same characteristics, such as being tall or having brown eyes. A distinguishing characteristic of an organism is a trait. So, definition. Okay. During reproduction, many traits are passed from one generation to the next. The passing of traits from generation to generation is inheritance. Another definition. Inheritance is the reason offspring resemble their parents, their grandparents, and even their distant ancestors. Every organism has a range of inherited traits. The parrot, shown in Figure 1, has green feathers, wings, and a hooked beak. All of these traits can be passed to its offspring. Not all traits are inherited. If the parrot in Figure 1 lost a claw in an accident, its offspring would not be born with a missing claw. Similarly, the parrot's offspring would not be born knowing how to pull or how to put a ball into a basket. Losing a claw and learning tricks are examples of acquired traits. An acquired trait is a trait that an organism acquires or develops during its lifetime. Okay. Alright, so there's two types of traits. Well, not necessarily. Okay, let's just say it like this. How do I spell this word? Acquired. An acquired trait is a learned trait. Okay? Like you learn how to ride a bike. You learn how to play a sport. So, that's something you learned. It's an acquired trait. Okay? Relate traits to inheritance. Okay, so a trait. Definition. So, a characteristic of an organism. That's the easy definition. Characteristic. Characteristic of an organism. Okay, so you could say hair color is a characteristic of an organism. You could say their height. You could say eye color. Skin color. Okay, all those things would be traits. Inheritance. So, inheritance, traits passed from generation to generation. Light work. Traits passed from generation to generation. It usually is more obvious when you skip a generation. So like if your grandparents had blue eyes and your parents didn't, it's most likely that you'll have blue eyes in the next generation. So it kind of skips a generation, well, the more obvious ones. Okay. So it says inheritance and DNA. That's a really good picture for 7th grade. Okay. Inheritance and DNA. Organisms pass inherited traits to their offspring in one of two ways. Some organisms, such as amoebas, bacteria, and some plants, pass traits to their offspring by cell division and mitosis. This process is called asexual reproduction. It produces offspring that are identical to the original organism. Many other organisms, including humans, reproduce sexually. This process produces offspring that are similar, but not identical to the parent or offspring. Okay, so there's 2 types of reproduction. This is a review of 7th grade. This is asexual. This is sexual. So these are the 2 types of reproduction. Asexual, they are identical. As in if they're identical. Sorry. I'm trying to figure that out. So if the parent has an offspring, and then, let me rephrase it. Let's say the parent has a disease, there you go, like, let's say it had some form of cancer, then the offspring would have the same exact type of cancer, okay? Sexual reproduction creates diversity, and diversity is something that's really important in an ecosystem. Without diversity, like if something went and killed one type of plant, the whole ecosystem would die. But in like through sexual reproduction, if you have a bunch of different types of plants, and let's say that same plant disease from this one happened over here in this ecosystem, it would only kill a little bit of the plants versus the whole ecosystem. So it's very important for an ecosystem to have diversity. It like, what's that thing called? Ugh. Increases sustainability. There you go. Right here. DNA and genes. Sexual reproduction requires DNA from a sperm cell and an egg cell. DNA, shown in figure 2, is a molecule inside a cell's nucleus that looks like a twisted zipper. Y'all, why didn't they just tell you the word? Did they mention it? No. Oh, it's just called a helix. They should have just put that. Yeah, okay. So a gene is a section of DNA that has the genetic information for one trait. So, highlight that definition. Genes carry this information in a unique sequence within DNA, much as words convey information by the unique sequence of their letters. DNA is long. If you stretched out the DNA in one of your cells, it would be almost 2 meters long. DNA fits into a cell's nucleus because it is tightly coiled with proteins to form chromosomes. A chromosome is a structure made of long chains of DNA. Okay, this is also great. Chromosomes. The number of chromosomes in a cell differs depending on the species. In most species, chromosomes come in pairs. Humans have 23 pairs. That's important for you to know. You should already know that, though. Humans have 23 pairs of chromosomes in each body cell, as shown in figure 3. Each pair contains 1 chromosome from the father and 1 chromosome from the mother. Human reproductive cells, called sperm and egg cells, each contain only 23 single chromosomes. Along each of these chromosomes lie hundreds or thousands of genes. When they do this, I'm pretty sure it's called a karyotype. When they're looking at your chromosomes. Okay, next one. Oh my gosh, y'all. What page did they tell us? 539? This is really extra, as in this isn't even... Okay, scratch this out. We're not doing that. This is something that you talk about in biology, not necessarily 8th grade, but I guess because they told you to do it, we're doing it. So they give you a picture of meiosis. So it says combining genes. In sexual reproduction, an egg cell and a sperm cell each contribute 1 gene for a trait. Each gene for a single trait is called an allele. Something you should know. Each gene for a single trait is called an allele. There you go. So each egg cell or sperm cell carries 1 allele for a trait. How the alleles are sorted and combined into offspring during sexual reproduction is mostly a matter of chance. Y'all remember Punnett squares? You know, you should have done this in 7th, okay? Then you have a dominant allele, so it'd be like a capital letter, and then a recessive allele, be a lowercase letter. Those are the alleles. This is something we would have reviewed in class. You just move it straight across, okay, wherever it is. So if it's on the side, it moves straight across. If it's on top, it goes straight down. Okay, like I said, something you should have talked about in 7th grade. Meiosis. Much of the randomness of sexual reproduction occurs during meiosis. Meiosis is the process in which sperm and egg cells form. During meiosis, the chromosomes in existing egg and sperm cells replicate and divide, as shown in figure 4. Then they split into 4 separate cells, each with half the number of chromosomes, 23 chromosomes, in human egg and sperm cells. Each sperm and egg cell contains a unique combination of genes on each chromosome. During fertilization, a sperm and egg unite. When this happens, the egg cell chromosomes and the sperm cell chromosomes combine to form an offspring with a full set of paired chromosomes. I lost myself. Okay. Because each sperm cell and egg cell is unique, the resulting offspring is also unique. In humans, there are many potential gene arrangements from the union of sperm and egg chromosomes. There are so many possibilities that if a mother and father could have billions of offspring, each produced from a different fertilized egg, no two would be alike. They didn't have to give you that example. Y'all, there's no one in the world that's alike. Sexual reproduction. Okay? Diversity. You have to do this. Whew. Okay. Let me look at this. Chromosomes. Okay, so right here, chromosomes in human cells. I'm pretty sure in your... Yeah. So when it comes to your body, yes, got it right on the nail. Boom. Humans have 23 pairs in each body cell. Okay? So, in your whole body, all your chromosomes have pairs. So 23 pairs. The difference in reproduction is that you have a sperm cell and an egg cell, right? And they're combining together. So they would only need a single set. They wouldn't need pairs. So you have 23 single chromosomes. Okay? They're not in pairs because they're going to combine with another one. Did you all see that? Upsetting. Okay, there we go. Characterize the recombination of genes in sexual reproduction. Let me see. Meiosis. Chromosomes in existing reproductive cells replicate and divide. Bam! Right there. Where did I go? Here it is. Right there. Existing egg, replicate and divide. Okay, so replicate and divide. Then they split. Yes, perfect. Okay, they split into 4 separate cells, each with half the number of chromosomes. 23 chromosomes. There we go. They split into 4 separate cells, each with, what did we say? 23, half the number of chromosomes. Each with half the number of chromosomes. Perfect. Okay. Fertilization. Okay. A blank and a blank unite. I think we know what fertilization is. Hopefully you know this. It's when a sperm cell and an egg cell. Sperm cell and an egg cell. They unite. So that was easy. The resulting offspring has, and it says it right here. Alright, here it is. When they combine, they form an offspring with a full set of paired chromosomes. Has a full set of chromosomes. Each with half from the egg and the sperm. Okay, not as bad as I thought it was going to be. Done. Y'all, through 39? Okay. Influencing traits. An organism's complete set of genes is its genotype. So, like if we're talking, go back to the Punnett square thing. Like, if this was a trait, this would be the phenotype. No, the genotype. Okay, genotype. Now, let's say that this one was dominant and this one was recessive, because it is. But that this was for, like, brown hair. And you would say, like, brown hair is dominant. Brown hair is dominant. So the phenotype would be that this person is going to have brown hair. The genotype is that they have a dominant allele and a recessive allele. Okay. back to this. I'm sorry, I got distracted. An organism's complete set of genes is its genotype. Once inherited, genotype remains unchanged. However, an organism's environment can influence traits expressed by the genotype. If a factor in the environment changes, the expression of a trait in an individual organism can be affected. Okay, so things can change. Short-term environmental changes. Inherited traits are part of an organism's phenotype, so this is how it looks like. So you could think of phenotype. So here's phenotype. Because it starts with a P, this is going to be something that's expressed physically in an organism. Okay? So, where we go? Okay, how it looks like. Phenotypes result from the interaction of an organism's genes and its environment. An organism's environment changes all the time. Light, temperature, moisture, nutrients, and social factors are not constant. They are short-term changes in the environment, helping you out here, okay? It says underline examples of short-term environmental changes. That's it. What is it? Light, temperature, moisture, nutrients, and social factors. Okay? These factors influence organisms in different ways. For example, because light is crucial to or critical to plants, light levels have a strong effect on plant phenotype. Plants that grow tall in full sunlight might not grow as tall in low light. Okay. Physical factors. There are many physical factors other than light that influence phenotype. For example, low levels of nutrients in soil, such as nitrogen or iron, might turn a plant's leaves yellow or cause them to fall off. I didn't know that. Nutrients can cause dramatic changes in the phenotype of some animals too. The large honeybee shown in figure 5 has genes for the same traits as the smaller bees around it, but because it ate a special nutrient-rich diet, it developed into the queen bee. Interesting. Similarly, flamingos, also shown in figure 5, are born white but turn pink because of the food they eat, including algae and crustaceans, is rich in red pigment. This is like, I don't know if you've ever heard this, but they tell you don't eat too many carrots because you'll turn orange. Like, that's true. Okay, related to phenotype. Blah, blah, blah. Okay, this. Social factors. What are those? Locust? Yeah, locust. Gross. They have them here. Those things hurt. Okay, social factors. An organism's social group can also affect color, body structure, or behavior. Desert locusts usually are solitary insects when they live alone. However, when these locusts are in a large group, they apply pressure on each other's legs. This causes them to change color and to swarm, as shown in figure 6. Flamingos are another example of animals that are influenced by social factors. A flock of at least 20 flamingos is needed for breeding to occur in zoos. Interesting. Adding more birds to the flock leads to increased breeding success. In the wild, flamingos live in flocks up to 10,000 birds. Very interesting. Okay, they want you to, what is it? To do notes. Factors that influence traits. Okay, well, FYI. This is why these things are in bold. So, you need to describe this clearly, okay? But you could put physical factors and then social. Describe that, and then you'd be done with that. I'm exhausted! Okay, 39. Whew. Phenotype and mutations. Oh, that one looks like it's wearing a tux. Okay. When an organism's phenotype changes in response to its environment, the organism's genes are not affected and the change cannot be passed on to the next generation. The only way that a trait can change so that it can be passed to the next generation is by mutation or changing an organism's genes. Oh, this is the whole, that's a mutation. Okay. So random changes. A mutation is a permanent change in the sequence of DNA in a gene. It is an error in the DNA's arrangement in a gene. Have you ever made an error when you were typing or texting? You might use one letter instead of another in a word. My bad, I lost where I was. This could change the meaning of the word. Similarly, a mutation can change the trait for which the gene holds information. Okay. Although all genes can mutate, only mutated genes in egg or sperm cells are inherited. Some mutations in egg or sperm cells occur if an organism is exposed to harsh chemicals or severe radiation, the Hulk. However, most mutations occur randomly. The color of the lobster shown in the photo at the beginning of the lesson occurred as a result of a random mutation in a gene or a sperm cell. Hold on, I thought I had it. Oh, it's on this next page. They're talking about this blue lobster. He's so pretty. Okay. Blah, 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 blah. The color or the feather color of the penguin in the middle of figure 7 is also the result of a mutation. Tuxedo penguin. Now he needs a bow tie. How is the phenotype of the... Okay. Helping you. How is the phenotype of the middle penguin affected by mutation? So phenotype is physical appearance. Because of his mutation, his... What is it? Are we going to say torso feathers? Okay, so his torso feathers are black. Okay, done with that. Done. Effects of mutation. Many mutations have no effect on an organism. They neither help it or hurt it. However, some mutations change an organism's genes and its traits so much that they can affect an organism's ability to survive in its environment. Some mutations are harmful to an organism, but other mutations might help it survive. I want to highlight that. Stroke. There. Mutations that benefit an organism can spread to an entire population. Why? Because they're living and they're reproducing. Long-term environmental changes. Populations of organisms depend on resources in their environment for food and shelter. Sometimes environments change and the change lasts for years. After such a change happens, individual organisms of a species might not be able to find the resources they need to survive. When this happens, the organisms die. If all the individual organisms of a species die, the species becomes extinct. Okay, figured that out. Sudden changes, like the meteor hitting Earth, killing the dinosaurs because it brought up all the ash and the sunlight couldn't go through. Okay. Extinctions can occur when temperatures change quickly. A volcanic eruption, such as the one in figure 8. Whoa. Okay. Are we all interested in finding out how to say that? I am, and I'm therefore taking a picture of this word. Asia Fayalu. No. Okay, continuing on. Okay, a volcanic eruption, such as the one in figure 8, can throw ash and dust into the atmosphere, blocking sunlight for many years. This blockage of sunlight can affect global climate and food webs. It could affect the temperature, clearly. If a population's food source is reduced or destroyed due to a sudden environmental change, the individual members of a population will need to make changes in order to survive. The organisms can move to an area where the food is unaffected, or the organisms can replace the food source with another food. If the organisms are not able to move or locate other food, the individuals die. So think about it this way. Volcanic ash released into the atmosphere lowers the temperature of the earth because sun isn't passing through. And at the same time, what do plants need to survive? Sunlight, because they use photosynthesis. So because of volcanic ash occurring, there's less photosynthesis, so plants are dying, which limits the resources of primary consumers, which are the animals that eat the plants, aka herbivores. Examples of those: cows, sheep, things that graze, goats. There you go. Gradual changes. Not all environmental change is sudden. Depending on its location, Earth's tectonic plates move between 1 and 15 centimeters each year. As the plates move and collide with each other over time, mountains form and oceans develop. If a mountain range or an ocean isolates a species, the species might become extinct if it cannot find the resources it needs. Species also might become extinct if sea level changes. Highlight examples of long-term environmental changes. Volcanoes erupting. Food being reduced because of a sudden environmental change. What is it? What did we say? Or tectonic plates. That's a gradual change. Okay, I'm gonna go with that. That looked good. List possible causes and effects related to mutation in reproductive cells. Why is this so far over here and not on the other page? Okay. Oh, because it's a mutation. My bad. Okay. Possible causes, random or... They're talking about mutations, so... right here. Shoot, I lost my pen. Okay. Mutations are usually random, but sometimes they're not. So if you're exposed to harsh chemicals or severe radiation. Okay, so random or we're gonna say exposed to harsh chemicals, severe radiation. That E is supposed to be attached to severe. Okay, done. So the effects on an organism when they are... Boom. Many mutations don't have it. So the effect is that it could affect its ability to survive. So the effect, so there's usually no effect. So we'll put usually none. Usually no effect. Usually no effect. Okay, so it can help survive. Can help it survive. Can also do the opposite, so it can be harmful. Okay, 3 things can happen. It can not do anything, it can help it survive, or it's gonna like speed up its death. And we're done with that. Okay, you have this. 100% you are doing this by yourself. I am not gonna help you with that. Look how long this one was. Examples of environmental factors that affect phenotype. Physical factors, social factors. So, I could keep doing this with you, but guys, this video is almost like 30 minutes long. Did I miss it? Phenotype. Where is it talking about phenotype? That was a lot of work. Why are they giving you so much? Okay. Here we go. Phenotype. Physical factors. Here we go. Boom. Low levels of nutrients in soil. Oh, wait. No. Never mind. That was an example. So we'll say nutrients. Light. Nutrients consumed, light exposure. Okay, I got it. Like, okay, light exposure, because if you go out in the sun and if you're like light skinned, or even if you're not, like you get darker, right? So there. Nutrients consumed. I told you if you ate a bunch of carrots, you would turn orange. Just like flamingos eat a bunch of shrimp, so they turn pink. Okay, so that's done. Example of social factor. What is it? Locusts. So locusts change color. When, how did they describe it? When they're all really close together. Boom. Okay. They change color and swarm. Locusts change color when they're what? Together? When they're in a large group. When in a large group and swarm. Okay. Connect it. Contrast how short-term and long-term changes to the environment affect organisms. Okay. How do they affect organisms? Oh, got it. Okay. I was going to tell you to come up with your own answer, but I kind of want you to know this in actuality, so I guess we're going to do it. So short-term changes are difficult for organisms to adapt to. Many can die. Okay, so if something were to happen in short term, so a short term event, anything like a natural disaster or something like that, it's hard for you to adapt in a short time. So what happens is a lot of things, like people die. Y'all, coronavirus, that was, sometimes I impress myself, really. Like, coronavirus, new disease happens, people don't have a vaccine for it, it's hard to adapt, and as a result, people are dying. Okay, real life answer. Now, long-term changes, okay, so long-term changes, so you need to think of it this way. After the short term, right, because it first comes out, people are dying. But then afterwards, and we're not talking about coronavirus anymore, we're just talking in general. So afterwards, the people that survived are more, or they have a better chance at surviving, right? So we'll put organisms. I keep saying people. Organisms that have survived have traits that can be passed down to their offspring right? And so they're adapting Sorry, I have to write it down. This is what happens when you're old. Okay. You've survived. Sorry, not people. This organism survives whatever short-term disaster happened, okay? Or short-term change. Like an oil spill, something like that. That's a short-term thing. But the long-term thing is that the organisms that were able to survive short-term, okay, they're still living their life. They go on to reproduce and they have their children, right? Those children get those nice, okay, those traits that were helpful in survival, okay? Now, because all the other ones that didn't have this trait died off, now the ones that have this trait are reproducing and they're making more babies. So over time, this leads to natural selection. The ones with the best traits are going to survive. Boom. That was a great answer, but that was actually really hard for y'all considering that we didn't learn this in class. Okay, you are clearly doing this by yourself. If you did everything we did together, then this is an easy 100 for you. Like, because honestly, look at how much that was. How many pages was that? 1, 2. Hey, don't forget, you guys still got to do 537. Nice try. It's about 12 pages. Okay. So I helped you with this. 100% you're doing this by yourself. Don't bother using the math skill because I don't like that crap. And we're good to go. Bye, y'all. Have a good day.